Hello, everyone, and welcome to the future of space. I'm your host, Daniel Fox. Our guest today is Patty Stoll. She's the president, Space Systems at ILC Dover. The company has been making spacesuits for NASA since Apollo. So, Patty, welcome to the future of space.
Thank you for having me, Daniel. I appreciate it.
So, where are you right now? You're in Houston, I believe, correct?
We're in Houston, Texas. We are right across the street from Johnson Space Center, a really good location for us since most of our astronaut corps is across the street. So if we have any suit issues, we can be there as quickly as possible. So we really like to be co-located with NASA.
You've been there for quite some time, you yourself, or?
I have been in Houston all of my career. Once I got out of the Marine Corps, I started with Lockheed and then ILC Dover quickly after that. So I've been here for my entire corporate career.
How has been the mood in Houston in the last, I would say, 2, 3 years with this kind of excitement building up in the space, where space used to be on the fringes, now it's really at the center of our daily lives. There must be some kind of excitement going on in Houston on a daily basis.
Well, I mean, I can speak from experience because I have been with the space program for a very long time. Even when I was with Lockheed for a few years, I tested the astronauts in their spacesuits, and then with ILC Dover. So I feel like for a long time we've been planting these seeds, hoping really something's going to come out of it. And I think the surprising part is really, I would say, in the last couple years, is the excitement for commercial space and seeing other companies go into space. Just it opens up the opportunities not just for your normal space companies, but for private citizens as well, which makes it so much more exciting. Sort of gives me the goosebumps, maybe because I'm passionate about it and I've been in it. So it's really exciting for me. I think where I am in my career, as the president of this division, and I've worked my way through the ranks. So I have been, my first project as a project engineer was certifying a sports bra for the women, female astronauts, to wear in the spacesuit. So I started with, a project like that, and now, kind of seeing that progression of that contract, which we're still a part of. We build the spacesuits for NASA. It's a very exciting time. I see a lot of folks coming into the Houston area and a lot of the space companies coming into the Houston area as well into the spaceport. So it's very, very exciting.
Now, before we get back into the work that you're doing at ILC Dover and I mean, now you just said that um, developing bras for female astronauts, but obviously we don't think about, these little things that we take for granted. And I know that Dan was saying that like gloves are custom made for each astronaut. So I assume that it is the same for the bra for female, or maybe not, but we'll come back for that. I want to know
Okay.
from you, what is 3 words that capture or represent space for you?
Yeah, for me, the first one is breathtaking. And I was sort of going between awe inspiring and breathtaking. Now, clearly, I have never been to space, but what I have appreciated about those that have had like the honor and privilege of going into space, for example, Nicole Stott, who you've interviewed, and her new book, Back to Earth, is that, they go to space and they're able to either write books, take pictures, create art. Here's a little piece, a pendant, she gifted me with from, the looking at Earth, from space, and then they bring a little bit back. And in those you get to dream, and it is very breathtaking. Any chance you get to see Earth from that perspective, every single photo, and there's so many out there. And so I do appreciate people who have the privilege to go there to come back and bring that. And I think, if you listen to Nicole Stott talk about, humans being earthlings on spaceship Earth, it really puts it into perspective, especially, now in the time that we are. There's a lot of with war happening, sort of internationally overseas. It just, it makes you remember that we're all humans, right? And we're all in this together. So for me, first, it's just that it's just breathtaking. And when I used to support the spacesuit, the EVAs that we would do, and I would be in the back room, you would see an astronaut who was just going out of the International Space Station, out of the airlock for the very first time, and their little heart rate would just spike, right? And you could see veteran astronauts who had been out a few times. It was just like another day, another walk in the park. So clearly there's that factor of, oh my gosh, really realizing where you are, even though you know you're safe and your little heart rate starts to go up. So it's just really breathtaking. And I think taking that all in, even from Earth, never being in space, is just, it's something that, like I said, gives you the goosebumps.
And then your second word,
That's the first one.
the first one.
My second word, right. My second word would be boundless. And sort of when I was thinking about that is when we think about being on Earth, it feels like you're limited to land, right? And I think the exciting part about space is it's boundless. Like we know sort of what we know about space. I always think of what don't we know about space. And until we get out there and really experience it and really start to live and work in space, I think we get the point that we talk about the moon and we talk about going to Mars, but what else can we go to, so as humankind, as mankind, once we get out there? So the second one would be boundless. And the third one, is opportunity. And that kind of seems weird, like opportunity. And oh, maybe you're a president of a company. So it's like, definitely, there's a chance to make money. But the opportunity I'm really talking about here is the opportunity, I would say, for inventions, new products. I would say even medication or pharmaceuticals that can help life here on Earth or even life in space. I always tell our board of directors, I think there's products and things we don't even know about because we just haven't lived and worked in space. We don't, I mean, we have, but not sort of on a mass scale with what folks are looking at. Once we start getting new commercial space stations in low Earth orbit and we're back on the moon or Elon Musk wants to colonize Mars. I mean, what are the products that we're going to need? So when I think of opportunity, yes, I think everybody first will go to making that money, but really it's bigger than that. It's how do you improve life? And maybe it's not just life here on Earth. It may how do you improve life in space one day.
It's that new blank canvas, really. We've been
It
on
really
Earth for
is.
for a long time, and I can imagine it was the same thing when someone was confined to an island, and then they're on the beach, and then finally they got to build the little vessel that's going to give them the possibility, the opportunity to go and explore. So they go out, and this is just a land of new opportunity because you get to discover it and create it, and then it gives you the chance to create new innovations that will keep you pushing forward. So obviously going to space. I mean, it's always hard to invent the future because we don't know how it's going to
You
be.
don't
Like
know.
we don't know, like 50 years ago, 100 years ago, someone would have, given an idea of the future. They would have never come up with an iPhone with an internet that gives you the capacity to bank overseas, all that kind of
Yes.
the little things. Now, we know you work with a company that obviously does a lot of technical and science into it. But what is for you the human story of going to space? What rallies everyone into that story of going to space?
Yeah, and when I think about that, I think about even I've got twins, 16-year-old twins who are going through modern ancient history and modern history and U.S. history, and when I think about all that, it's just this human desire to explore, right? And even natural resources, what's out there, and I think this now we're giving humans better access to space. It looks safer. We're having more people going there, and I think it's just in our human nature to explore and expand. And I think since space is so it's becoming more real now. Like, okay, really, I can go there. Even with you look at Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin taking people to space, and it's like, okay, I can go there, and it's really like as far as like there's no age limit, right? You've got William Shatner going to space, you've got young people going to space. So it's this whole equal opportunity to go to space and just wanting to go and explore. So I think that's really the biggest part of it. When I did a little research on what's the ticket to go to space, well, what's Blue Origin or Virgin Galactic, and I think it was maybe, is it like 350 thousand to half a million. I had read that in 2030 it could be only $3,000 to go to space. So do I want to go to space at a half a million? No. But do I want to go to space at 3,000? Yeah, I might do that for my birthday or for Christmas. So I think it's making it accessible And then, hey, we want to go there, let's try it out, right? And you can be 100 years old or you can be 20.
It's the natural journey of these innovations. Cars, when they came out, it was just, the rich and famous of Fifth Avenues who would, when everybody was
Right.
on horses, they would come with the little 4T, because it was not everybody could afford it. Same thing with cell phones, same thing with so many.
Mhm.
I mean, even credit. People don't realize that credit, where we have these credit cards, the access to capital
Yep.
before was only reserved to the people who actually had capital. But at one point, that innovation kind of became more accessible, and now everybody goes around with a credit card and can do so much more. So
Yeah.
it will be the same going to space. Obviously, at the beginning, it's only the big governments. The process is usually big governments, big entities. Then
Right.
there's a certain the big people who have the funds, and then it continues, and then you reach this mass marketplace where suddenly, and obviously the rockets landing upright was a big turning point for this. And more and more the technology, the computers, is the same thing. The chips getting smaller.
Mhm.
Now,
Yes.
talking about technology, I haven't forgotten what you'd said earlier. I want to go back to that. You experienced space from a woman's perspective, then you were also connected with that reality, and you were designing bras for female astronaut. Is it the same? Like, does it need to be customized? Like, how different the technology needs to be approached for when you go to space?
Yeah, and so really what we certified was just an off the shelf sports bra, right? And so small, medium, large, extra large. But the main thing that you're concerned about with introducing something new in a spacesuit is how is it going to react to the pure O2 environment, right? So we look at the materials and we ensure that everything that's going in there is O2 compatible. And that was the main thing. But yes, it was a huge surprise because I know women, they're wearing bras up in space, but those bras aren't certified. So it's really something that you have to look at. Now, of course, we give them an option. Are they using it in space? I hope so, right? But and every woman likes their sports bra. It was the same thing with with jock straps. I mean, they certified a jock strap for men, so it's like, okay, well, the women need sort of the sports bra for the same reason the men do, but it did take a long time. It was like even hair ties. If you want to put your hair in a ponytail, that has to be certified too. An engineer actually took it through a certification process. So yes, you're not doing a custom because, hey, the small, medium, and large, extra large, let's just find something that works as sports bra. And then maybe if you have a special sports bra you like, then we can look at that as well. But yeah, from that standpoint, we definitely try to use what's off the shelf. Now, there's some things that do have to be customized, and you had mentioned the gloves. And we don't do a special glove for every single crew member. We have right now about 65 to 69 sizes of gloves. But every year, about we do maybe two custom gloves, depending on if we can't get a crew member in a right size. But there's a whole chart on it, and we try to fit them in the sizes we have. But NASA does allow for about two custom gloves a year.
You mentioned the reaction to oxygen, pure O2. Like, what does it do? Like, for the general public, I mean, even for myself, like, I would have not expected that this was a concern. What happened to fabric when it's in an O2, like a highly concentrated O2 environment?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is depending on which material you're introducing. It could spark, right? And what I was concerned about when we were talking about bras was a lot of the just regular bras that women buy have an underwire, right? So how does that wire also? Do we want a wire? And so no, in sports bras we just went pure fabric. So you're looking at, is it wire? Is there something that could trigger a fire in the suit? So you're really looking at those things, and it's very material specific. And so there's a lot of materials that we have in a database out there that are O2 compatible, but you're really trying to keep the crew member and the astronaut safe.
I guess it's one of the, like, even if we get the biggest computers getting more powerful and our testing system are getting better and better and better, what is always so important in testing in real is to discover the unknown. I mean, you can have the best models, but your best model is always constructed on the known. But when you go into space and when you go into the unknown, what is really important is, like, well, we have to fail. We have to figure out how this is going to fail before it
Right.
fails, out there. And at ILC Dover, I assume it is a big part of the process to keep experimenting to figure
Yes.
out what the unknown before the astronauts will find it in a harder way up in space. Correct?
Yes, I mean, we take all of our spacesuits, our EVA spacesuits, our launch entry abort suits through a very rigorous certification process. But even after we have, I would say, tested it to where you're actually, maybe you're going to go and manufacture what is going to be your flight hardware, you're going to take those suits through a lot of testing with the crew members, either test subjects or the crew that are actually going to wear it. And in a lot of cases, we've had veteran crew members who've done multiple spacewalks. They've been in pretty much every EVA suit out there, EVA and LEA. So if you can get them in your suit, have them, play around with it a little bit. And that's what we did with our commercial suits, Soul and Astro. It's that human element too. So you can take that suit to failure on a system, on a rig or a test rig. But when you actually get a human in the loop, that just adds something else, because someone can pull a zipper differently, or someone say, who's female maybe needs more leverage. She's going to hold on to something and pull something. It's like, okay, we didn't think there was going to be loads going across this way. We just thought it was going to be done this way. And as an engineer, we do it the nice, right way just to make sure, like this is how you do it. But everybody's going to do it different. And really, if you're in an environment where it's stressful, or maybe you've got to get into something or out of something fast, there's a lot of things that go in there. So definitely we take it through a rigorous testing process, but then we want to get a test subject with really veteran crew members in the loop, so they can get in the seat, they can see how it's supposed to work. And really, you're not going to get everything right, because even with the spacesuit today, there's still issues that happen when they're doing their spacewalks. But trying to get all of those things so we don't have an incapacitated or lose life, right?
This is what I always love, having conversations with the engineer, because they have a very linear way of, like, a clean, things happen within like almost a vacuum, and it's one plus one. But nature is messy, life is messy, and you
Yes.
want systems that are not, they're resilient. They have enough tension to sustain themselves and to stand upright. But it also, there's room, to move, because you always have
Yes.
the unexpected. I remember some years ago, my brother was an furniture designer, and he told me how when you design furniture, you have to remember that the wood is going to move depending on the level of humidity, and you can build something on one continent that's going to be super super nice, and then you ship it overseas, and then it's all worked, and it's not opening properly. So understanding, obviously, that when you go to space, there's going to be this unexpected and, again, the unknown, and you need to have a suit that's going to be able to, that has that room to be resilient. Correct? That's
Oh, I think it's the most important thing. Because the way I characterize it is the products that we provide, whether it's a spacesuit or a space inflatable habitat, you almost want it to be like it's not even there, right? We try to make them as conformal as we can so that you can do your job and not have to even think about the suit. Now, in an EVA spacesuit, it's a little bit harder. LEA is a little bit easier, but still, you want to have it to feel like, hey, it's just a coverall, and I can do what I can live, or I can work, or whatever it is I need to do. But you're right. Even building furniture, did you have like a couple kids jump on the furniture, or someone just jump? No. And so it does, it wears on the wood, or so it's the same thing. But you want to have a couch, but you don't always want to know, okay, like I have to, here's the couch, and it's like, let me just sit down on the couch, and it's like, okay, that's great, until it doesn't work, and you're like, yeah, this isn't a good couch, let's change it.
now LC did the spacesuits for Apollo. Back then, it was, I would say, kind of focused on the men perspective of going to space and how to approach the systems. Now, LC is also doing the spacesuits for Artemis. You're working with Nicole Stott. Artemis is extremely, I would say, from a woman's perspective, it's more a different vision. What are the benefits? I mean, in nature, diversity is an important tool for being resilient. The more like not having your eggs in the same basket allows you to become more resilient. Now, you've been in the space industry for a long time. Now you're working with Nicole Stott
Mhm.
for the developing these spacesuits. You're going to be an Artemis. How? What are some of the benefits or the discoveries that happen in the process now that there's more different perspective to it?
Yeah, I mean, and so I've been like, we'll just focus on our commercial EVA spacesuit, extravehicular activity spacesuit. I use a lot of acronyms, and I don't mean to, but that's sort of like the main suit that you see when we do spacewalks. So we have a commercial spacesuit. So I'll focus on that one. What I love about the one that we have designed and manufacturing now is it allows for modularity, right? So you can get the fifth to 95th percentile of like male and female into about three suit sizes. And what we've done is, we have a special design on our upper torso that allows us to move it in and out. That is always the main thing, is how can you get all sizes of people in this suit. And so as a female, of course, they like myself and Nicole because we're about the same build. But we've gotten, very short women in there. We've gotten Sunny Williams in there. So, it's really more about making the suit modular so that you can allow for the diversity of whether it's male or female. And if you probably remember years ago when they wanted to send two females outstation, it was like, oh, we only have one medium suit. So that wasn't very good. But what we've done with our Astro suit is it allows you, okay, so you want to send two medium people out the door, male or female. Well, you can adjust those, and we've done it to make it adjustable without any tools. So it's how do you make it easier to adjust, and how do you make it modular for more people? Because as we go into space, it costs a lot of money to take hardware into space. And so if you can reduce that cost by allowing more people to fit in, say, a certain number of suits that you have, it really just opens it up for everyone. And that's what's sort of the nice thing about our EVA spacesuit, is that it's modular and it can fit men and women. And you could adjust it on orbit, not say, I just have a medium or I just have a large. It's, I have a suit, I can make it medium to extra large.
And so in part of the for some of the people who don't know, when you go as a pilot, part of the the essential reality that you don't see is the pressure. The pilot have their suit that can compensate for the amount of G's and the pressure. When you go to space, what is some of the unseen that we don't know that is really necessary for an astronaut to survive in outer space, or an environment, with zero gravity?
Okay, good question. I mean, I know how we design them, right? So of course Nicole Stott and the other ones, Scott Parent-Zinsky, have been there. But I always think of, like, of course you have to breathe, and you have to have water. You have to be able to go to the bathroom. Those types of things. I think what we say, how can they survive or exist or do the work? I think that's the main thing, is providing them everything that they need, or everything that they need to do, and not really the spacesuit be the focal point. I think if you're having to worry about the spacesuit, the mission sort of gets compromised in a sense because you're having to worry about the suit. But definitely the main thing that you have to think about too is the sizing. Yes, they need to breathe. Yes, they need to drink. Yes, but the sizing as well, because you are fighting that pressure. And I don't know if you've ever been in a spacesuit. And Daniel, if you come to Houston, we can put you in one. But it's hard to sort of move in there. So there's a lot of fit checks that go on the ground as much as we can and size the gloves properly so that when they're in there, they're able to work. So it is a lot of, how do you survive, but also how do you work? I mean, that's the reason why you're there. And if you can't do those things, then it gets complicated, right? And then you can't really focus on the mission.
Do you is there now the technology to add the exoskeleton to a suit where moving forward there's going to be this combination of assisted power that can facilitate some of the movement, but it becomes integrated within the suit?
I want to say yes, and of course I'll have to leave the answer to our fellow of the company, Dave Graziosi. I mean, like I said, he's been doing this for over 30 years. But yes, I mean, we try to use everything that we can, cutting edge. We see what's out there, and actually having commercial suits, we've been able to do that more for a very long time. The products that we built were for NASA, so when NASA prescribes a spacesuit, you have to build to their requirements. So we took all those years of experience and said, okay, what's the cutting edge technology that's out there to help us design better? And with our commercial approach and our investment that the company has made, we've been able to incorporate those things. And so we know, okay, here's what NASA wants, here's what commercial industry sort of wants. And so we're able to bring those together and, yes, use cutting edge technology that helps us design suits better.
And now you've been, I mean, ILC Dover been working with NASA for a long time, but now you get corporate, more commercial clients. That must be exciting to kind of have this field opening up and having a different stories and different needs. And because also from your perspective, this added um, clients also kind of elevates and makes the company evolve and discover things that they didn't think before.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's been, I would say, the greatest thing that come out of the commercial is that, now customers come to you and say, okay, I just want to go out and maybe just look at space a little bit, or maybe I do need to do some maintenance on our commercial, station. But we're able to, at that point, give them a solution and not over engineer the solution. Because in the government's case, they want to make sure that two and three, four failures are covered, right? I mean, they want to bring their people home alive, and we want them to come. But sometimes it's like, okay, we don't need like the four and fifth, accident. We got it at one or two. So we are able to bring in all the experience that we have and actually give a solution that may even be more cost efficient to get the job done, right? So, not giving you the Mercedes when all you need is the little pickup truck.
Some people, a lot of people just want that old beat truck that comes
Yes,
that gets them from point A to point B, right?
exactly.
Are you allowed to share with us beyond NASA who else you work with?
Not a lot, but I can definitely tell you products that that'll give you an idea, right? So I've mentioned our Astro, our commercial EVA spacesuit, right? So for folks that are, let's say, have commercial space stations in low Earth orbit or in cislunar orbit, or let's say we want to go to Mars, we have an EVA spacesuit, a commercial approach that will do that. Launch, entry, and abort suits, we launched those about a few years ago. Our commercial offering is Soul. So anybody who has a spacecraft, so I'll say that, who wants to go to space can use our spacesuits. And so I'll say we're talking to a couple of provide, I would say, end users for that suit. And obviously, I think well aware of what NASA is wanting to do with exploration spacesuits. So anything that is spacesuit related, whether it's extravehicular or launch, entry, and abort, we're going after that. And of course, today we are the manufacturer of NASA's current spacesuit that they've been using for over 40 years, and definitely want to do upgrades on that. And the other thing we hadn't mentioned, but is very, very exciting too, is our space inflatable habitats. And, when you talk about going to space, not only do you want to have something that you can wear that protects you either in the spacecraft or if you're doing a spacewalk or you're outside a station, you want to have something that you can live and work in. And what's the nice thing about our inflatable habitat is that it's very light. So, and you can, fold it up. And so you don't need a lot of space, and it doesn't weigh a lot. And you can take it to, say, low Earth orbit or cislunar orbit or a planetary surface. You inflate that. And in one case, it can give you, say, three levels, like three floors of working space. Some of them are like 27 by 27 feet. I mean, so it's just, that is very exciting. I've been in one of them that we've manufactured that's been pressurized and had a whole meeting in it. And I just felt like I was in a building. And if you can imagine those on, four or five of those on a commercial space station, it just gives you a lot of room. And so, really we're building the products that are going to protect people and their and product, protect their lives, and be able to let them live and work in space. So that part's really exciting. And of course, we also build the landing airbags for Boeing Starliner vehicle. So that one I can talk about. We do that as well. And so, of course, they haven't docked to the space station, but we've tested our airbags because they have done the land landing, and that's very exciting because you don't have your spacecraft dropping in the ocean, so you don't have to worry about all the muck and muck there. But our airbags have been successful; they've worked, and so that's another product. And I always say there's probably going to be other products that we don't even know about that we're going to find out about when we go into space. And I think having that inflatable option, the soft option, is very appealing because it's lightweight and it's cheap to launch to space.
Now, one of the things that really gets me excited is that expeditions, exploration, there's always a risk involved.
Yes.
But the human cost of exploration has gone down tremendously. I mean, if you compare back in the days of, when Europe moved to North America, they would get into the boats. They would not really know if they would make it across. The conditions were really awful. They would get to land, and then there was a hard environment. They would have to start from scratch. But now we can send a lot of robots. We can experiment before. We can do a panoply of really dangerous tests to make sure that by the time that we get over there, the risk is really reduced. I mean, right now we have helicopters on Mars and we have rovers, and we're able, I mean, we
Mhm.
haven't, I mean, knock on wood, we haven't had any major accidents when it comes to rockets. And even now, as the commercial entities are going up, um, it's refreshing to know that that next step, we're not kind of just falling, not knowing where we're going to land, and just like, well, cross fingers and everything is going to be all right. So these habitats,
Right.
these all these, even the spacesuit, um, kind of is like going, I'm a solo wilderness explorer. It's going out, and then now you have your GPS. You don't have to worry too much. This is not your main focus. You can focus more on discovering, learning,
Yes.
as opposed to the essential. Now, Patty, you've been in the industry for a long time. You've been with ILC Dover for 17 years. Before that, you were Lockheed, Marine Corps. You've seen a quite of a great transition of within the on the work market, the presence of women and their influence. And now we are in an era where a lot of leaders, and you included, are women. The next NASA astronaut to the moon is Artemis. um, it must be quite exciting having your children and telling them of the accomplishment and the possibilities that are offered now to young women and women in general.
Oh, and I do a lot of the speaking in the lower schools and high schools. To really the focus is always on the young ladies, but I guess equal opportunity. I'll talk to the men as well. But a funny story: when I was at the I've always sort of been in this male dominated society, no matter where I've been. I went to the Naval Academy, which again, not a lot of women there. And then I selected the United States Marine Corps. Not a lot of women there either. But when I was at the Naval Academy, we would always have parades on Fridays, and at lunchtime we would do a parade, and we would have lunchtime formation, and we would march around. And I remember, you're in this environment, so you just sort of think you're like kind of one of the guys. You really do, because you're doing everything they're doing. And I remember I was marching with my platoon, and I heard this little girl say, "Look, mom, it's a girl one." And it just sort of was like, oh my gosh, like these little girls are looking at you and saying, hey, there's a girl one, and I identify with that. And of course, women just as capable, just as intelligent, and I definitely think diversity, and I try to do it here as well, whether it's racially or gender wise or whatever it is, because it really just makes you better, right? So it doesn't mean you have to. A lot of people are like, well, I don't like this. It doesn't. The liking doesn't matter. We're just working together as a team. And yes, it is very exciting. And I do a lot of the speaking, like I said, to some of the math clubs that are like Girls for Math, and to get their little thank you cards. Like, now I know I could do it too. And it's like, yes, you really can do it, and we want you to do it. And it just makes it more exciting for everyone, right? And I think that's where we are, as a world now, that we know that we're just as capable. But it does bring a lot of joy to be able to talk to the young ladies, because they are, the whole world is ahead of them. And I never had anyone when I was a young girl, kind of telling me, hey, you should be an engineer. You should. My father was in the Marine Corps, so of course he ran the home, kind of like the Marine Corps. And I think that's why I sort of got passionate about it. And I was athletic, and I thought, I think I can do that, because I had planned to sort of enlist in the Marine Corps until my father came and told me, hey, I heard of this place where you can start at the bottom of the top instead of the bottom of the bottom as an officer. And I'm like, okay, I'll try that too. So I've always have been, and even in corporate America, I would say it's still male dominated. And we're getting a new CHRO soon who's a female. And I was kind of like that little girl, hey, look, it's a girl one, because I've been in this, at least with the executive team for a pretty long time. And so now we have a second female on our staff. So it's always exciting, I think, even if you're the young girl till when you're an adult. Because now I have to race someone else to the female bathroom.
How important? Nicole was telling me about how, obviously her father was a pilot, but her mom was extremely supportive. Her mom never stopped her from saying, no, you can't do it. This is like, she had to kind of hold on to her fears. And because obviously her husband had had an accident and she saw her daughter going the same way. How important is the support for the family? I mean, for you, you really went into these places where you were a maverick, you were breaking the mold. And
Yeah.
I guess at the family, at your home, did you have the support from your father and from your mother?
Yeah, I mean that is where I'm like completely blessed. I mean, no one ever told me. Like I said, I had never no one ever told me you should be an engineer, you should go in the Marine Corps, you should do these things. But I never had anyone tell me I couldn't do it. And that was important. Now, my mother, she was born in Mexico in Morelia, Michoacan, and then when she was 5 years old, she came to the States with her mother. So there was always adversity there, even coming over to the United States. And my father, he was in the Marine Corps, then went into the road construction, and so that they have always been, yes, you can do it. And I don't know where they got that from. Maybe my mother got that from, the hardships of coming from Mexico, and then she didn't finish her schooling at sixth grade. She got out and stayed at home. And my mom's always been a hard worker. The same for my father. So I definitely get the work ethic from them, but the support is, that's invaluable. I think you have to have the support. Just tell the children you can do it, even if as little you see, okay, we're not doing well in math or we're not doing well in science. It doesn't matter. I'm like, just encourage them and then let them make that decision. My kids, they're 16, and I've told them from the day they were born, you're going to be an engineer. Now, are they both going to be engineers? That's what they say right now. But
Yeah.
at when they get to college, they may say, no, mom, now I want to go and do this or do that. But I've instilled a dream in them, right? And given them like, you can do it. And they're not both running the same race. Some are ahead in school, maybe some are on the normal track. It is okay that everybody is on their track and doing what they need to do, but the support, it's just the encouragement. It doesn't hurt you just to be nice and encourage people. And I think whether they're children or adults, we always want to like leave people better than they were when we first met them.
I think it's one of, like, even it's not about what we know, but what we can do. And obviously, for a lot of people, I mean, in the coaching that I've done, a lot of people get stuck on the knowledge. Like, I don't
Mm,
know this, therefore I can't do it.
yeah,
The reality is that we never know, but what we do
yeah,
have is the capacity to find the skills to figure it
yeah.
out. So that often for me, like when I tell people, it's like, you can, because you will figure it out. What you need to
Yes,
know, you need to have the confidence within you that you are a resourceful person, that you have
yes,
the capacity to find those answers. You have the capacity to get back up on your feet. And if you
yeah,
understand and if you believe on those things, then everything is possible because of those things. And I think it's more like the skill sets, giving people the skill sets to deal with the unexpected, the unknown, because no one gets to start in life with all the answers. What I think what
exactly.
the human species has been good at is always figuring out how, once you hit that wall, once you hit that ceiling, we need to figure out how to move forward. We have to go beyond, and fail and not discourage. And I think that's one of the societal failures that we've had over the last decade or 15 years is the narrative on the human species has been a really doom and gloom. We're a bad
Yeah.
species. We're a cancer on the society. How could we do that? But the reality is that life is messy. Evolution is messy. Learning is messy. And everyone, the vast majority of the people in the past, always wakes up trying to do the right thing. But
Right.
unfortunately, there's always unintended consequences. And the only difference between really an innovation and a mistake is the hindsight, but the road to it
Mhm.
is the same. And
Yes.
until we do those mistakes and we're able to look back and go, okay, well, that didn't work, and understanding that when it when you need to, and on the innovation and technology, we understand the necessity for failure. We need to test things, so what works, what doesn't work. But that also is applied to your personal development
Yes.
and a cultural and a society. We
Mhm.
need to fail sometime to that forces us to reassess, well, this is where we want to go because we don't want to go over there. And I think that
Right.
space is offering this new narrative of we can use the mistakes that we did. Now we know they're mistakes, and we can change how they're approached. We can make it more inclusive, more diverse, because we know it works better. But it's all about the storytelling, right?
Yes, and I agree. I think you're right. People are sort of scared to fail. And, even in this position, probably people think, you know how to design spacesuits and you know how to, build a spacecraft and build an inflatable. No, I don't. But I have the people that do, right? Yes, I have to talk about it and be prepared. And I prepare myself. And do I always hit the mark? No. But I'll take the criticism and then I'll go back and I'll make it better or make it right or say, okay, I should have studied here. But you're right. I mean, it's just, you can't be afraid to fail. And it's not always like mass failure. It's just you got to get up and you got to give a speech, or you got to give up, you got to present something, or you have to submit a report. But reach out to the people around you. Do a little bit of research on Google. I mean, I use Google all the time. It's a good, go and search. But you're right. You have to be okay. You're not going to have all the answers. And if you don't, like what we learned in the Marine Corps was, I'll find out, sir.
Yep.
You can always go find out. And so you're right. And I wish more people would take that leap of faith. I kind of heard, I think I read something that 75% of the people who public speak are scared to public
Yep.
speak. 75%. And that's really a lot of my job. And, I just try to be prepared. And once I get started and I feel comfortable, but some people don't even try because they're scared. And it's like, but you could do it. And it's the same thing with, I always force my kids to do things. They're like, oh, mom, please. Like, they're in this musical now. And it's like, I made them do it. But, it's like, I want you to try different things. And you'll never know until you try it. And I don't want them to go out in the world and be adults and be scared to try something.
Go try. It's always the
Yes.
fear of the unknown that paralyzes people. And then once you see, you do it, and then you go, oh,
Yeah.
well, that wasn't that bad. Okay, I can do it. And then you get this little like power boost and self-esteem, and
Yes.
then slowly and gradually you build that confidence. And
Yes.
it's always also important not to become too arrogant. Say, oh my god, then that is, I think it's also the like life is not meant to be perfect and fair, because it keeps us on our toes. If it was too
Yes.
easy to figure out the equation that took care of everything, then we would become super arrogant, and life would become really, I don't think, of the best of what we can do. But that uncertainty and that risk, of not having everything in control, always makes
Yes.
us, where the humility and the empathy comes from. Now, for anyone who's listening and wants to get into the spacesuit business or wants to learn more about ILC Dover, I guess they go on the website, the career. There's a lot of information. ILC Dover is not just space. There's
Right.
technology. There's a bunch of components to it. So, what would you say to people that wants to learn more about your company and your choice of career?
Right. And so, like you said, you can, of course, go to our website, ilcdover.com, and look at careers. But, I think what you have to remember about space suits or space inflatables, I mean, when we hire, we typically, majority will take like green, you don't know anything, right out of college. And that's what I always tell, at least my hiring managers, because no one educates themselves or goes to school to be, you can go and maybe learn a little bit about spacesuits, but you're not coming out and graduating a spacesuit designer. You're only going to learn that on the job, right? So it is the sort of, hey, I've never done spacesuits before, and it's taken the risk that I'm a pretty smart person. I got my engineering degree. Let me go out and try this. And so, it's it's if you have that engineering degree, look, apply, please. And we are actually, about to put out like over 100 positions out online as far as spacesuit designers and quality and sewers, and we've just got a lot of, positions out there because really we are going into space. So you look at the website, but don't hesitate to submit a resume for some of these positions. Just because you aren't a spacesuit designer, we're not hiring spacesuit designers. We're going to make you a spacesuit designer. We're going to make you the best of the best. So there's so many opportunities out there. Again, ILC, but not just with ILC, with every other company that's out there, doing business in space. It's a really exciting time for folks who, and then for me, I got my degree in aerospace engineering with a specialty in astrospace. I mean, we designed and mocked up satellites. I never really thought that I was going to get out of the Marine Corps. I had planned to do 20 years in the Marine Corps. And so I went on a deployment to the Middle East with the 15th Marine Expeditionary Unit back in 2000. And after that little cruise, I thought, yeah, I'm running home to mommy and daddy. And thank goodness I had my degree in aerospace, because there was a couple of retired colonels here in the Houston area. So I had 4 job offers basically coming out of the Marine Corps, with my degree in engineering and the leadership experience I had with the Marine Corps. So it's a good industry. I like it. Anybody can get into this industry. So it's just a very exciting time.
You said it like the engineer aspect of it, but if someone is in the fashion school, has,
That's the important thing.
has nothing to do with engineering, do they have a shot also at getting into the business?
Yes. Okay. So we are about to open up 30 positions for sewers in our Frederica, Delaware location and our Houston, Texas location. And in our Houston area, we have hired fashion designers from the Fashion Institute, the Art Institute of Houston.
Yeah.
Those are some of because really sewing, I think anybody, if they learn to sew, can sew, but it's sewing with a flair. So we have a lot of sewers who do the Comic-Con and, different things, and, big photo shoots and getting those costumes ready. So you do want to have the flair, the finesse is what we call it. And so, yes, I mean, and it doesn't just have to be, sewing or fashion design. I mean, we have heat sealing and precision cutters and everything that goes into making the spacesuit. We have positions for. So really anybody can get started.
So anybody, I'm looking, we're yesterday with friends, we were talking about how when we imagine the future, fashion, there's a lack of uh, function in it. Like even, if you look at Star Trek, you look at what they're wearing and it's like,
Yeah.
who came up with this design? There's no function to it. Like no one would come on those spandex,
Right.
uniform. But moving forward in space, there's going to be obviously a lot of function to the apparel, not just the spacesuit, but the everyday clothing that we have. So we need this, like, again, this diversity of engineering and artists and people who think outside of the bubble, so that the apparel evolves in this kind of combination of function and form and art and expression.
Yes.
And that's going to be exciting, as we move forward. It's a total new era that's opening up all
Well,
opportunities and boundless
yes.
opportunities.
Well, and everybody wants to look good, so we do consider aesthetics when we design our spacesuits. Which it's nice to have,
Absolutely.
the fashion designers, and even those like Nicole Stott, like I told you, with my
Yep.
pendant and with her Space for Art suits, which
Yep.
I saw on the video you did with her, the interview, and what she had in the back. It's been an honor to work with Nicole and really taking these little swatches that the children have made and pulling those together. We do that here in Houston, Texas. It's just, of course, we're in the spacesuit business, but to be able to partner to do art and really inspire children and give them hope, that's
Yeah.
just even greater than, making a buck. It really is, because that's the lasting part of what we're doing. And that's, I think, what, if your heart's in it and you're passionate about it, that's really at the end of the day, I think what we're all, really striving for.
To see the light in their eyes, there's nothing that beats it. So,
Yes, it's important.
Patty, that was wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and share with us your story, the story of ILC, and all the knowledge and your experience that I'm sure people will find inspiring, and people will say, "Hey, she's a president of space into a big company. I can do it too." So
There's a girl one.
there's the girl one doing it. thank you so much, and I look forward being in Houston and
Great.
coming and see the team. This is going to be great.
Yes, thank you, Daniel. Appreciate the time.
All right, a big hi to the team. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.